box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Good evening, it's 11 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong, and this is Alex Armstrong Tonight's Late Edition. Breaking tonight.
They knew everything.
Did you therefore deserve to be sacked?
But
not the emails, but aside from that.
Because they came as a surprise to me.
Lord Peter Mandelson resigns from the Labour Party over his links to Jeffrey Epstein as pressure was heaped on him and Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor.
It is British to be diverse. The next election is going to be about a question of what is it to be British?
Newly revealed plans to make the countryside less white in a rural diversity drive by DEFRA, the Department of Environment. And...
طقس ربي يبارك ها شو رايك وجمعة وراحات شوف ما شاء الله شوف الأجواء.
Well, the Home Office's latest grand idea is to crack down on social media adverts telling migrants how they can get around immigration checks even. And Iran is engaging in serious talks, apparently, with the United States tonight in an attempt to strike a deal on Tehran's nuclear program. Joining me this evening, Deputy Editor of Spiked, Fraser Myers, former Labour advisor Paul Richards, and comedian and GB News contributor Paul Cox. But first, before we get cracking, let's get your news with Bethany Elsey.
Alex, thank you. Good evening. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 11:01. We'll start with some breaking news from the last half an hour. Lord Mandelson has resigned from his membership of the Labour Party over his links with the late convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. The former peer says he's regretful and sorry about his links to the disgraced financier and that he wants to avoid causing the party any further embarrassment. It's after the latest release of documents from the US Justice Department suggests Epstein paid a total of $75,000 into accounts linked to Mandelson when he was a Labour MP. In a letter to the General Secretary of the party, he said he believes the allegations are false and that he has no record or recollection of the payments. Mandelson, who was sacked as US ambassador last year, renewed his apology to Epstein's victims and denied any wrongdoing. Donald Trump and Iran's top security official have held talks at the Pentagon to try and negotiate a deal and avoid military strikes. Trump says Iran should agree not to have any nuclear weapons, but Tehran insists its ballistic missiles and defence capabilities should not be on the agenda. Washington has deployed a naval aircraft carrier off Iran's shore following a deadly crackdown on anti-government protests which killed thousands of people. Iran's supreme leader has warned a US attack on the country would spark a regional war, but the US president said he's hopeful they'll come to an agreement.
We have the biggest, most powerful ships in the world over there, very close, a couple of days, and hopefully we'll make a deal. If we don't make a deal, then we'll find out whether or not he was right.
Officials in Ukraine say at least 12 people have been killed and 7 others injured after a Russian drone strike hit a bus carrying mine workers. Earlier, strikes also hit a maternity hospital and a residential building, injuring 9 people. The attacks came just hours after President Volodymyr Zelensky announced a second round of US-led peace talks between the two countries are set to take place in Abu Dhabi this week. And in sport, Carlos Alcaraz has made tennis history, beating Novak Djokovic in 4 sets to win the Australian Open. The world #1 has become the youngest man to complete the career Grand Slam of all 4 major titles, having won Wimbledon, the French and US Opens twice, each since 2022. 38-year-old Djokovic suggested he's not sure whether he'll compete in Melbourne again next year.
God knows what happens tomorrow, let alone in 6 months or 12 months. So it has been a great ride. I love you guys.
You're up to date. Let's get back to Alex.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Well, we're going to go through your front pages first. Let's start with the Telegraph. Mandelson faces order for Epstein evidence and countryside to become less white in rural diversity drive. That's a very interesting headline for many reasons, and we will get to that in just a second. The Guardian. Mandelson under fire as files appear to show Epstein sent him $75,000. The I paper. Bring justice for Epstein victims Andrew and Mandelson told. The Metro. Embarrassment of riches for old pals of Epstein. The Daily Express. Prime Minister wants to rewind freedoms Brexit gave us. Daily Mail. Andrew in new Epstein legal threat. The Times. New Epstein victim. I was sent for sex with Andrew. The Daily Mirror. Epstein flew me to Andrew at Royal Lodge. Second woman's sex claim. And The Sun. Lewis dating Kim Kardashian. Kim K. Whatever you want to call her. Top of the news there, son. But in the last few minutes, the Telegraph is reporting that Lord Mandelson is set to be summoned to give evidence before Congress, the US Congress that is, on his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Sources close to the United States House Oversight Committee, which has spearheaded the release of millions of government-held files on the paedophile, said it was poised to issue the Labour peer with a demand to testify in Washington. All right, well, I've got a fantastic panel with me to talk about this. Comedian and GB News contributor and little GB News star, really, Paul Cox. Little star. Former Labour Special Advisor and columnist, Paul Richards, and Deputy Editor of Spiked Online, Fraser Myers. Good evening, gentlemen. Paul, I'll start with you.
Why not?
Well, of course, the breaking news tonight is that Lord Peter Mandelson has resigned his membership of the Labour Party. Lots of questions as to whether Keir Starmer should have actually pulled the trigger on this a while ago. But another claim by the Telegraph, they're saying that he is going to be ordered by the United States Congress to testify on this case.
We should now call him Lord Peter Underpants, I think. I think we should. I mean, they are the pants of a small boy. It's not
good timing for that stuff, Paul.
I'm not saying they were. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying when I was a small boy, those were the pants that I wore.
Nicely recovered.
Look, of course he should. So did anybody involved. I always remind myself of the facts of this at the moment. When they said they were going to release the files for Epstein, they said there were 6 million documents. They've released 3.5 million, which means that 2.5 million have never been released. They'll probably tell us, lawyers would tell us that that's because they're inconsequential, or they're protecting the security or personal data of people involved, particularly survivors and victims. However, 3.5 million documents have been released. There are some very embarrassing documents in there, but nobody's ever been convicted of a crime other than Epstein himself.
Yes.
And what we're seeing right now, and I'm always at pains to point this out because I like to work in the realms of truth 100% of the time. Now, truthfully, wouldn't want to be involved in this at all. Even at the low ebb of my career, this wouldn't help me. But what I'm saying for those involved is none of them yet have been convicted of a crime. Peter Mandelson included. And as much as I'd love them all to be convicted of a crime, Bill Clinton, I'd love him to be involved in it. He has not been involved in a crime yet. But they should, I think, contribute to any inquiry, as should Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. They need to contribute to these inquiries. It's amazing that no one's above the law. I think Prince Andrew especially or the ex-prince, I should say. I think should have no right to refuse to take part in this. On Peter Mandelson, I think it's just such a poor reflection of Keir Starmer's judgment, the fact that he made him the US ambassador, despite the fact that we already knew about his extensive relationship with Jeffrey Epstein at the time, and they surely knew that actually the release of the Epstein files was something that Trump was campaigning on in the election.
Yeah.
So the way they didn't foresee this embarrassment is extraordinary, and it must be a record. I mean, Mandelson has now been sacked by 3 separate Labour Prime Ministers in 3 decades, which is quite a feat.
Yeah, Paul, of course, just to reiterate, no one has been charged. None of these people here in the front pages, Andrew or Mandelson, have been charged with a crime. Paul was right. This is difficult stuff, I understand, for the public who want to see victims get some justice. Obviously, the only man who has been charged is Jeffrey Epstein, who is now no longer alive, no longer with us. Do you think that people who have not been charged with a crime have a moral obligation to go and testify?
Well, I do, and I think sunlight is the best disinfectant in a case like this, but it does need to be a proper hearing. I'm not sure the congressional hearing would be the most suitable platform for that. Let's see. But yes, it all needs to be out in the open. If the stuff we know about and the 3 million that has been revealed is anything to go by, then Lord knows what they're covering up in the other half of it that is being kept behind. I mean, goodness me, that looks like it's going to be pretty grim stuff. It was Enoch Powell who said all political careers end in failure, but Peter Mandelson's just ends in shame.
Did you just quote Enoch Powell?
I did, yeah. He said it about Joseph.
Window well and hasn't it? But this is the thing, Fraser.
He was right. He was right.
Obviously, Ghislaine Maxwell neither has been charged with a crime. Just repeating this. It's very important we get the facts right. Fraser, Keir Starmer, I think, is in hot water over this because he could have pulled the plug on the Peter Mandelson's Labour Party membership, couldn't he?
Yeah, he could have done that, people will recall when this stuff we were talking about this stuff last time a couple of months ago. How long he allowed Mandelson to cling on as ambassador? People want to know what it is about Mandelson, who is a walking scandal magnet. That means that he's constantly rehired by all of these administrations. It is bizarre. You'd think that he's someone you'd want to run a mile from.
Well, I can answer that because he's rather brilliant. Peter Mandelson for 3 decades has been somebody in and around politics, and he is rather charming. He is rather brilliant at what he does. He's very good. He was good as an ambassador until he was sacked. I mean, he was doing a good job. So that's why he keeps reoccurring Zolig-like in every sort of incarnation. Sacked twice by Blair, I think, rather than each of the prime ministers.
Right.
You might be right. I think it's just for the sake of accuracy.
3 decades.
Yeah.
Paul, can you truly be brilliant if you've been sacked 3 times now?
Well, it's like a sort of tragic figure, isn't he? Sort of brought down by his own weakness, and his own nemesis is money. At each time, it's because he's taken loans off people because he wants to live a high life beyond his means, and that seems to be his sort of recurring.
He is alleging that he has no recollection.
He is, and he is being very clear to say that he has no recollection of the money, which is why a hearing will bottom all of that out, and we'll find out the truth. But it's not sexual with him. It is about the cash each time, and we will see with this one when the truth comes out. As you say, he's saying he can't even remember the money.
We have no idea why. I mean, the idea that it's not sexual, I agree with. There's no evidence of that. But it's like...
He's a gay man, don't forget. He's a married gay man. It doesn't mean that there wasn't men there. It doesn't mean that It doesn't mean that gay men won't get involved in sordid stuff. I'm not saying that he did, but I'm just saying that, there's no evidence for that. Come on, Paul, there's no evidence for that whatsoever.
However, well, it's Epstein's Island. It's like going into a strip club and saying I went in for a beer because it was a good price. Everyone who went to Epstein Island went there knowing they were going to have a good time. People were gagging to get on that plane. Literally. Look at the people that were involved. There's no way that people... Why did they go to that island? Every single person who went to that island could have had a free holiday off anybody. Why take it off Epstein? That would be my question. Well, I'm not saying Peter Mandelson... look, Paul, you're every right, particularly in your position, to defend Peter Mandelson. But...
I'm not defending him, I'm explaining him.
Well, fair enough. But, I mean, this is a man that has been embroiled in all sorts of shenanigans over the years. I mean, he might well be brilliant. Those underpants were brilliantly white. But I would say that this is a man that has seen all sorts of scandal, and I think Fraser's right. It really does reflect very poorly on Keir Starmer.
All right, well, look, the thing I feel so frustrated about with this story is that obviously I don't personally feel like we'll ever know the full truth of the whole thing anyway, right? But you look at a lot of the files; they're completely redacted for whatever reason the US government wants to give, and I know a lot of people watching just go, do you know what? I've just lost interest because unless there's going to be justice and a lot of arrests for crimes, what's the point? And I do get why people are feeling.
Can I just flag something on this though? Who took that picture? Right. Why are all of these people on camera?
Yeah.
Why are they all being surveilled?
It's a good question, Paul.
I mean,
how many pictures you had in your underpants?
Some journalists are suggesting this is actually part of compromise. This is this is an espionage attempt to have all these great and good people on camera in these compromising positions, because otherwise, how can you explain so many cameras everywhere?
It's very odd.
180,000 photos in the files.
It's just unbelievable. Nobody, not even my kids take that. You know, exactly.
Paul, to be fair,
in our pants, you know, how many photographs of you are there in your underpants?
There is
very few.
Some of them do look very sketchy. Like, why were they taken? However, some of them, like the one of Andrew on all fours, he's looking at a camera. So
what on earth is going on there?
There's, to sort of retort that conspiracy that some journalists have peddled, there are obviously pictures that people were happy to take, which I think is completely shocking.
Do you think Peter Mandelson knew this photograph was being taken of him in his pants with looks like a girl in a dressing gown looking at something on a laptop? I mean, that's not a...
I highly doubt it. It's not a picture you'd want to post for.
Really, exactly. So it does raise the question. I'm just saying, I'm just asking the question, why are there so many cameras?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting stuff. Look, let's move on to a different story, because the Times reports this. Ministers are paying hospitals this is scandalous, really, if this is true. Ministers are paying hospitals £3 million a month to remove patients from waiting lists, making it look like the health service is treating more people than it actually is. Sir Keir Starmer and the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, have repeatedly highlighted Labour's success in cutting the numbers of patients waiting for treatment. Overall, that has fallen by about 300,000 since Labour came to power. 2 weeks ago, the Prime Minister claimed new figures showed NHS waiting lists were down by more than 86,000, which was the largest fall in a month for over 2 years. These aren't just numbers, it's thousands of people getting the care they need, that's what they said. But analysis of official NHS statistics by the Times reveals that this drop was achieved only by removing thousands of patients from a waiting list known as a process known as validation. It's all very odd. Paul?
Yeah, look, lies, damn lies and statistics. I don't trust any statistics, particularly political statistics. As I was driving in earlier, I could hear a conversation about Sadiq Khan. Sadiq Khan will take the plaudits for all positive statistics in London. The minute you see the flip side of those statistics and they're negative, miraculously, it has nothing to do with that. And I think, this doesn't just apply to Labour or Sadiq Khan or the NHS in this case. It applies to all politicians. As someone who has been involved in creating statistics in a previous world when I had a real job, I can tell you, people pick the statistics they want.
Yeah.
You can create any statistic to make it look at least flattering to some degree. Now, the thing when it comes to waiting lists is being disingenuous about the health service is damaging to everybody involved.
Yeah.
So I would question why it's necessary. Would be much, other than for political reasons, of course, would be much better understanding exactly what the picture looked like so that we could work with it, no matter how bad it was, than having them made flattering in this way.
Just to give a little bit more context here to the rest of the panel, at the heart, this is what the Times is reporting. I'm reading this a bit verbatim here. At the heart of the controversy are so-called validation payments made by the NHS to hospital trusts to trawl through waiting lists to identify those people who no longer need to be on them. Those look to identify patients who have died and others who may not either need or want the treatments they were waiting for. Between April and September last year, NHS England paid hospital trusts a total of 18 million for validation exercises, with the organisation saying that trusts were paid around £33 for each patient removed from the list. This would mean that over a six-month period, more than 500,000 patients were removed through the validation process. Is there anything wrong with this, Fraser?
Well, I mean, I suppose letting people die is one way of taking them off the waiting list.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point.
It would slightly miss the purpose of government policy, I think. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you know, people are going to judge the health service based on the treatment they receive when they interact with it, and unless that feels radically different by the end of this Parliament, then that's where Labour, that's where Labour's going to be judged, damned or praised, and it's not going to be based on any kind of form of statistical.
So Paul, obviously, this big celebration of waiting list being dropped is usually the reason why this is a little bit scandalous. Is that the government claim we're improving the service, we're making it better, we're making it faster, quicker, more doctors, more nurses. Well, actually, according to the Times, it could be because of a small administrative procedure which removes dead people from waiting lists.
Well, Fraser's absolutely right that the government will be judged on how we feel and experience our National Health Service rather than sort of big global numbers. It's whether you can get the treatment you need fast enough.
You can't put it on the side of the buses. You know, that has a big impact on
yeah, quite. However, I think what this story is telling us is that the government is spending money on the administrative staff who can take people off lists who shouldn't be on the list, which does actually save the NHS money. It's not an unfair, it's not some sort of dodge, it's just a way of saying, look, if you're not supposed to be on the list, we'll pay someone to make sure and go through all the list and take them off. And we're dealing in millions of people. So I think it's a entirely reasonable thing for the government to do.
All right, well, listen, coming up, another new migration crackdown by the Home Office. What might it be this time, I wonder? Stay tuned. This is Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Of the autistic Barbie.
Well, made by Mattel, this latest offering in the Barbie brand launches a new neurodiverse doll.
Yeah, but lots of people reacting to this, saying it's too political and even virtue signalling. We're asking this morning, has Barbie gone woke?
Joining us now, Paula London, who's commentator on all sorts of social events, and the author, academic and activist Lisa McKenzie. We say hello, good morning to you. Now, tell me this, which one of you would cuddle up Barbie, this new Barbie doll? Which one of you would do it?
I think if I was a little girl, you know, Barbie's Barbie, isn't she? You know, this is something that Mattel has done for many, many years. You know, the first astronaut Barbie was 1985. We've got wheelchair user Barbie, we've got mermaid Barbie, we've got there are so many different Barbies, and I think with this, again, there's another story to this. It's been, this Barbie is being made with a charity. So it's about, offering little girls a different type of Barbie, but it's also about showing that girls with autism are also, you know, part of society.
I have ADHD, and up to 50% of all women that have ADHD fit into the criteria for autism, and I found it rather almost offensive that the autistic Barbie has eyes that don't look directly in front, also has an iPad for communication, has noise-cancelling headphones, and up to 1 million people have autism in this country. Some people don't realise.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Social media users who tout illegal routes into the UK will face up to 5 years in prison under a new crackdown by the Home Office. Immigration authorities already have the power to target social media users, but only if they can prove online content directly led to a migration offence. The new offence will target social media users posting adverts before migrants arrive on UK soil. Well, more than 10,000 social media accounts, pages and posts linked to people smuggling shut down last year. All right, what do we think of this, guys? Paul?
Look, obviously, I don't endorse this in any way, shape or form.
You're not doing it, are you, Paul?
I'm not. Well, I wish I was. It looks really lucrative. If anyone knows how to get involved, get into my DMs. But no, what I'm trying to say is, I get a little bit squeamish when it comes to social media, and the idea that they have to, the burden of proof is to be able to prove that it led to the migrants coming across, to me, is the very interesting point, because nearly everybody who got arrested and imprisoned after the Southport riots, there was no trail of proof to say that what they said on social media led to anything other than offence. So I would ask, why all of a sudden are they cracking down, and how are they going to do it, and why were they so lenient when it was against the things they agreed with?
Fraser?
Yeah, I think it also just feels like another... every aspect of the government's approach to illegal migration just feels very piecemeal.
Yeah.
It feels as if, you know, you're dealing with, like, small symptoms. I mean, we've had this, the... announcement that we're going to crack down on the boats made in China.
Yeah.
We've got the
small boat engines,
exactly. One in, one out deal that's only sent home 281 people or something like that. Yeah. That was revealed last week. And again, it just feels like tinkering and not really grasping this problem by the horns. You know, we have 50,000 people arriving illegally on small boats. Is getting rid of a few social media channels going to do anything? Do these people even live in the UK who are posting these things? Is it actually possible to arrest them? Are they silly enough to be doing it from the UK? Who knows? Again, it just feels like it's not really understanding the gravity of the situation and how angry people are about it.
Paul, why wouldn't the government just detain them, deport them, and end this crisis once and for all?
I think the government absolutely gets how angry people are, and I think is doing everything it can. And this is another example of another tool in the kit, isn't it? If there was a single simple thing, we would do it. Any government would, but there isn't. So all the different things you have to try aggregate to disruption of this evil trade. And I think so much of it is organised on social media. We've seen the TikTok videos advertising how to, where to turn up and how to do it and where to pay and all of the rest of it. If you can disrupt that business model, which is largely conducted through socials, then that's just another way to try and stop
the single simple thing is available to us.
Which is what? Gunboats? What's your solution?
Yeah, why not? Put the Royal Navy in the middle of the channel.
Well,
I'll tell you for what. I'll tell you what.
Because the Navy will tell you it wouldn't work.
Exactly,
for a start-off.
because they're tied by the ECHR. So the very top Sea Lord would turn around and say, we're not doing that because it's illegal. I know that. I understand that.
I don't think it's about illegality. I think it just wouldn't work.
Why wouldn't it? We've never tried it. I tell you what, if you put a bunch of frigates and destroyers in the channel and they turned around every single boat that couldn't get past the halfway point, there'd be a lot less people in boats getting to Dover. Of course that would work. The reason we can't, and I know it sounds draconian, but we have an invasion now, Paul. We have an invasion.
The Navy
and we
would
need
tell
to
you
do
that's
something.
nonsense.
You wouldn't, if that was Russians coming over in gunboats, you'd want to turn them around. I'm saying that we don't know anything about these men. Why not put the Navy there? It's a simple solution. Come out the ECHR, change the law,
because it won't work. And if it would have worked, then a government would have done it of any stripe,
no, absolutely
whether
not.
blue or red.
There isn't a single government that has had the gumption to do anything serious about this.
I would deploy the Special Boat Service, because I think what you can do is do upstream, literally, in all the tributaries that they supplied the boats to, you could disrupt it at that stage in collusion with the French, who seem to be standing around watching while this is going on. But the idea of actual frigates and gunboats in the Channel is just a nonsense.
Well, we've never tried it, have we?
Well, it's a good point, actually. Fraser, we saw some people from the Raise the Colours operation that have been out in France popping boats. They've been sent cease and desist letters from the French, despite the fact we're paying the French £500 million to do something about it. They're just sitting there eating their baguettes and smoking the cigarettes, by the sounds of things. Well, obviously, I'm being a little bit unfair there.
Something you normally apologise for me saying.
Yeah, sorry. A little bit unintentional. But Fraser, this is the thing, isn't it? Like, people want to see action, and this social media thing, I applaud any attempt, really, for any government to crack down on doing this sort of stuff, because it is embarrassing to our country. But, what difference is it going to make? Because the only difference that people really feel is going to change things is a real deterrence. Labour got rid of the Rwanda scheme on day one. They've had smashed the boat engines. They said they're going to send in the special forces. Sorry, no, they didn't actually say that. That's what we want them to say. They had this sort of smash the gangs, which has failed abysmally, and Rishi Sunak smashed more gangs than Keir Starmer did.
Yeah, well, when I was living in France, the French traffic police went on strike because their right to have a glass of wine at lunch was being taken away.
So I wasn't. But there you go.
So maybe
I wasn't joking, was I?
Some stereotypes have a ring of truth in it. But no, in all seriousness, I think you're right in talking about a deterrent. I think the fact is that many people know that if they do successfully arrive in the UK, then the chances of them being removed or even being punished for arriving illegally are vanishingly small. And that even goes for people who come here and commit horrendous crimes. Often they're not deported back to their home countries. So until that is resolved, OK, yeah, we can talk about things to do upstream, stopping people from arriving in the first place. But people know that they can try multiple times to arrive, and once they arrive, then we won't do anything about it most of the time.
Well, that's part of the business model, is you can pay once, but you can have as many attempts as you like, which is why people keep coming recycled. But it goes back to faster processing too. If people know they're going to be here for a matter of weeks, not years, and if they're not supposed to be here, they are out as fast as possible. We're not just sort of brigading people into great big camps, or even the old hotel model, which has completely failed. Then I think that will help as well.
But it feeds into this story.
And the people that should be here are fine.
On the bottom of the Times here, just from what I can briefly read on the front page, migrants riots fear. Ministers have admitted that moving hundreds of migrants into a camp at Crowborough in East Sussex, where I was at last week, by the way, could lead to protests and even riots similar to those of 2024. The problem is, Paul Cox, that the public are fed up. They've had years of this. They've had years of promises. They've seen all these ridiculous policies when they all know there is a solution that the government is refusing to do because it cares more about international law, as we hear time and time again, human rights of people that don't actually live in this country, have only arrived here 10 minutes ago. And they just want this sorted out. That's why these government ministers are worried about riots. They're fed up.
Sure, and absolutely, and everybody has a right to be upset about this, by the way. The crime of noticing is becoming less and less of a crime. And people have, obviously, in the past noticed, put their heads above the parapet, people much braver than I, and got themselves in a great deal of trouble for doing so. You don't get in so much trouble for pointing it out now and for noticing. But I always equate this, like a metaphor in my mind, is that it's like a computer with a virus. We are operating under the virus conditions. We've allowed it to happen. We're operating under the virus conditions. If this was genuinely a computer system, we would go back to default settings. And in order to do that, we have to take some pretty draconian action, which would mean leaving the ECHR, because being part of the ECHR means we can't do anything we want to do. For instance, when Fraser says some people, small minority, come and commit heinous crimes, one of the reasons they can stay is because they're treated as a British citizen who may have been here for their entire life because of the ECHR. Yeah. Whereas if you can treat them as an illegal migrant, then they can go straight away.
Fraser, this is it, isn't it? Going back to this story in the Times here, migrants riots fear, the government are clearly concerned. And I think they should be. People are angry. I've been speaking to them. They are furious. These aren't just like, what a lot of people will sort of smear them with far right, and they think they're thugs, they're bald-headed thugs from the 1970s sort of stereotype. These are middle-class people. These are pensioners, people who never protested their whole lives, who are so angry that the government is letting them down, ignoring their pleas over immigration, ignoring their pleas over illegal migration, that now the government are going, we better do something in case people start rioting.
And I think also this issue now touches into every part of the country in the way that it might not have done in the past, you know, if you look at the hotel issue or where various asylum seekers are being held, that's been dispersed all around the country. If you look at the British high streets that are filled with the infamous Turkish barbershops,
they're everywhere. Yeah,
there is a sign that this is happening pretty much everywhere where you have eyes to look, and so that unsettles people, and that's completely reasonable because it's a sign. Let's not forget, this is a sign of organised criminal activity. It is a sign of lawlessness. So, you know, it's one thing we should be humanitarian, and when people are fleeing wars and things like that, we should, I think, be quite generous and consider their claims. But people know that that's not really what's happening, and so it feels like there's a disconnect between the way the political class sees this as primarily, you know, about helping victims, and the way the public sees this, which is actually as a facet of organised crime.
Yeah, but Paul Richards, you know, the minister's admitting this obviously means they are thinking about it and must be drawing up plans if there were riots. I'm sure they would be, which is what any sensible government would do. But they're thinking about the wrong thing. They should be thinking about solving this crisis to avoid the riots, not thinking about ways to manage a riot. This is sort of it's putting the fire out after you started it.
Well, both of those things can be true. You can deal with the problem. Closing the hotels is a very important part of this, by the way, which is something the government is committed to do by the end of this Parliament.
What the Times is saying. That's the sort of kindle to start riots by moving them into army camps when people don't want them there either.
But I think that's probably a better solution than these hotels in town centres, which have real flashpoints, as we've seen. But at the same time, prepare for anyone that wants to cause trouble. And we know that, you know, yes, there are nice middle-class people who are very upset and demonstrating. We also know there are outside agitators who want to ruck, and, you know, the police have to be ready for that. And that's a reasonable thing for ministers to be preparing for.
All right, well, look, coming up, Sir Keir Starmer has claimed that the Conservatives' botched Brexit deal has harmed the economy. Is he right, though? That's next.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Well, we have a south-shifted jet stream that's just bringing areas of low pressure across Europe, so it is unsettled. We've got spells of rain, more so across Portugal and into Spain and into France. Across the Mediterranean, we are also seeing some heavy spells of rain and thunderstorms, but also some strong winds, so expect some rough seas here. Otherwise, there's going to be further showers on the cars. There will be some brightness in between, though.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather updates provided by the Met Office. A new week is upon us, but the weather is very much remaining in the same theme we've seen during this last one. It's rather unsettled. We've got rain at present across the southeast and in the northeast. It could be heavy at times in places. Further towards the west for parts of southwest England, Wales, but particularly Northern Ireland, skies will be clearing overnight, so we'll see some frost developing, freezing fog, but also some icy stretches around first thing on Monday morning. But you have the clouds still lingering in the east. Temperatures will be a shade higher as you step out first thing tomorrow morning. It is, though, going to be a reasonably grey, dull, drab day for many of us, with some pretty strong winds out towards the Northern Isles, continuing to see some gale strength gusts through here. It's generally western regions that might see a few more in the way of those limited, brighter, perhaps sunnier spells at times, but really is cloud is going to be the main theme right throughout the day, and that will continue to bring some patchy outbreaks of rain and drizzle in various locations. There is this band of longer rain that will just push its way into the Isles of Scilly and eventually towards parts of Cornwall as we head into the afternoon period. The breeze beginning to strengthen through here as well. Feeling quite cool underneath all the clouds, temperatures generally peaking at around 6 to 9 degrees Celsius. We'll have this focus on this rain as it continues to push inland into Monday evening, and then there's a rain warning in force for this as it does arrive associated with this area of low pressure. Meanwhile, up towards the north, we're going to be pulling in some slightly colder air from the continent into Tuesday, and so that will allow for snow to start falling to as low as 300 metres or so over some of the Scottish mountains, perhaps to lower levels for the likes of Orkney and Shetland as well. And we could see a little bit of hill snow for the likes of Wales as that band of rain continues its journey northwards, so there is going to be some further wet conditions around at times for many of us as we head throughout this forthcoming week.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
They knew everything.
Did you therefore deserve to be sacked?
But not the emails,
but aside from
because
that...
they came as a surprise to me.
Well, another surprise, because just a reminder of that breaking news in the past hour, Lord Peter Mandelson has said he's resigned his membership of the Labour Party to avoid causing it further embarrassment, following further revelations about his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, the former cabinet minister, of course, who was sacked as US ambassador last year because of his past connections to Epstein, appeared in the latest release of the files, of the Epstein files, by the US Department of Justice on Friday. Well, important timing here, because joining me now to talk about everything America ahead of the Late Show live at midnight is GB News' Ben Leo. Ben, I'm guessing the Epstein files is big news in America too, but what else is coming up on your show tonight? Are you going to be talking about that at all?
Yeah, most definitely talking about that. And just by the way, I love how we refer to these people as Lord Mandelson or the Right Honourable so-and-so. These people, these lords of the realms and the Right Honourable, they are... I mean, their behaviour is some of the worst in society. It always makes me laugh. Actually, it's not a laughing matter. It's a disgrace how these people are meant to be sort of, you know, better than the common person, lording around as peers of the realms and the Right Honourable Keir Starmer, when in actual fact they're anything but. I think it's a disgrace, actually. Paul Richards is there. I've got a question for him on Mandelson. And tonight, I'm making the point, Keir Starmer has been dragged into this Epstein scandal, whether he likes it or not, indirectly, because he still has big questions to answer, the Prime Minister, as to why he appointed Mandelson as the British ambassador to Washington in September, even though he was aware, even though Downing Street was aware, even though the Foreign Office was aware of the previous relationship between Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein. I know at the time in September when Keir Starmer, Paul Richards, Keir Starmer defended Mandelson initially when all the furore kicked off again in September, and then 2 days later when Mandelson resigned, he said, Starmer, oh, but I wasn't aware of the full extent. Well, the point is, he was aware of something. So in what planet was Keir Starmer thinking that it would be appropriate to appoint Mandelson as ambassador to Washington? For me, that gives a massive stain on Starmer's copybook, a blot on his copybook, and really questions his judgment. So Paul Richards, I'd love to put that point to you. What do you say to that?
Just to repeat this to Paul, he might not have heard your full question, but just to reiterate, Paul, what Ben was asking you there was, the Prime Minister said he wasn't aware of the full extent of things. He wasn't aware of the other things as well. However, why didn't the Prime Minister act earlier? I think that's what Ben's trying to say to you.
Well, that's an entirely fair question. I think at each stage, as new evidence has come to light that was not apparent before, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has acted. He first of all sacked Peter Mandelson as the ambassador with, you know, really quite a brutal sacking. And now this new evidence, which is all over the British press tonight, has led to Lord Mandelson resigning from the Labour Party after 50 years. So I think that at each stage where new evidence has come out, and he is an evidence-led kind of guy, Keir Starmer, he has acted with great swiftness and brutality.
Paul, let's go back to September. Did Keir Starmer know about the friendship between Mandelson and Epstein?
Well, I mean, that was apparent to us all, but Peter Mandelson told the Prime Minister that, you know, it was over and he regretted it, and like so many people caught up in Epstein's web, you know, it's something that he regrets to the rest of his days. But the issue of money, which, of course, Peter Mandelson denies, has only just subsequently come out, and in that light, that's why he's had to go from the Labour Party. So he's out.
Yeah, for me, it sounds like maybe I've just got higher standards than politicians these days. As I said, these same politicians who go around calling themselves Lords of the Realms and the Right Honourable, whether Starmer knew or not about the payments to Mandelson's boyfriend or all the other stuff, Starmer knew Mandelson was a friend of Epstein. He knew he was a friend. Downing Street knew he was a friend. The Foreign Office were alerted to their relationship at the time when Starmer appointed him. Keir Starmer should not be getting a get-out-jail-free card here. He knew about Mandelson and Epstein. To whatever extent, it doesn't matter. Even if he knew 1% of what their relationship was, he shouldn't have been appointed ambassador to Washington. Keir Starmer, his judgment is in serious question here. I don't think he should be getting away with this scot-free, Paul.
People were friends with Epstein, weren't they? Including President Trump and all kinds of people in the American system too. You know, this man had some sort of hold over the political class. He drew people to him. And then there were endless photographs taken of all these different people. So big questions about that too, and whose interests was Epstein actually operating. But, you know, Peter Mandelson is a very small cog in a rather bigger picture, I would say.
Yeah, OK. Thank you, Paul. Nice to speak with you. Also on the show tonight, Alex, Gary Lineker may be being banned from the United States because, of course, the US administration here, the State Department, they're getting pretty picky with who they let in. They particularly don't want to let in people who they think don't agree with American values, quote unquote. And there is a great story in the Mail on Sunday today about Lineker, who's been very vocal against the likes of President Trump, the administration, ICE, immigration and so on. And there's conjecture that because of that, Gary Lineker may not be able to come to this summer's World Cup. He's doing a Netflix contracted podcast, I think it's called. I forgot what it's called, doesn't matter. But there's big concern that that big Netflix deal will be torpedoed because he's too much of a lefty-lovey and the administration won't let him in.
I don't think that would be the worst news I've heard all year, Ben, to be quite honest with you. But maybe some people will say free speech is more important, hey? Maybe that's what they'll say. Do you think that, of course, we've been talking about Iran a little bit over the last 24 hours. Do you think this deal with the United States of America and Iran is going to take place? A lot of people here are saying, well, it will be a massive letdown if the Americans don't act now when they've got an opportune chance. What's the feeling on the ground over there, Ben?
We had some really great Iranian guests on the show last night, and they were basically saying, look, we listened to the words of President Trump some weeks ago when he said, help is on the way. And those words were pivotal. They were a catalyst for the tens of thousands of protesters who took to the streets all across Iran over recent weeks. Some 30,000 reportedly have been killed by the regime there. They took to the streets because they went on President Trump's word that help was on the way. In my eyes, they gave their lives for the future of their country, for their children, for their children's children. So I think now, and this is what some guests told me last night on the show, if President Trump doesn't carry through that kind of support, i.e. a strike, taking down the regime, I think they would feel pretty betrayed. So I just hope President Trump, for the sake of not just Iran and those protesters, but for the sake of the West and Great Britain as well, that he gives the regime, the Islamist despots and the Ayatollah what's coming to them, which hopefully is a couple of more B-2 bombers coming their way.
Fingers crossed, Ben. That's what I hope to. We will see you very shortly at midnight for the Late Show Live. I'm sure it's going to be a fiery one tonight. Coming up on this show is Dry January, a thing of the past. And, of course, we'll be talking about Brexit too. Find out more after the break.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
All right, welcome back, everybody. The Telegraph reports this. Sir Keir Starmer has claimed that the Conservatives' botched Brexit deal has harmed the economy ahead of fresh talks with the EU delegation this week. Speaking to reporters on the 6th anniversary of Britain's departure from the EU, the Prime Minister said he wanted to get closer to the bloc on defence, energy and trade. He also criticised promises made by the Tories and Nigel Farage during the Brexit campaign about cutting red tape and immigration. Follows previous pledges from Sir Keir to establish closer relations with the EU and comes ahead of a meeting with Maros Sefcovic, I think, the EU Trade Commissioner in London. So I'm sure someone will correct me on my pronunciation if that was butchered. But butchered a little bit like the Brexit deal, Paul.
Well, it has been, hasn't it? Let's face it. One thing I would say, though, is quite negligible, the difference between the economies in the UK and the economy in Europe.
Yeah.
There is nothing there to suggest at all that the economy has been affected by Europe, because the Europeans are suffering the same problem. And aligned closer on energy. We get all of our energy from Europe. I don't know, how much closer could you get on energy with Europe? I don't think you could get any closer. As with regards to defence, we're already quite close anyway. We've never actually seen a Brexit in the way that it might have been sold to us, is what I would say.
Totally agree with you there. No. The way we could get closer, by the way, you could send in Ed Miliband to them.
He could serenade them with a ukulele.
Yeah, that would be a nice way to do it. Fraser, how bad has Brexit been, according to the Prime Minister on the anniversary of one of the biggest votes ever in British history? He's sort of slamming it, really, isn't he?
Yeah, and I just don't think there's the evidence to say that there's been much of a change in the economy. I mean, that's the unfortunate thing. Actually, there probably should have been more reform of various things since Brexit. We have remained remarkably close to the European Union on most things. In some ways, that's kind of understandable.
Is Kemi Badenoch to blame a little bit here? Because she had this big she was meant to have a bonfire, wasn't she, while she was in office, in government office, and she failed to deliver that bonfire.
Yeah,
I mean, right to do that?
Yeah, there definitely should have been. We should be diverging on a lot of things, and I'm quite worried that actually, when we're going back on certain areas like energy, like agriculture, these are not trivial matters. These are huge sectors of the economy, and again, these are areas where Britain has its struggles, but Europe has its struggles too. It's not clear that, if you take farming, for instance, there are been farmers' protests rolling for the last 3 years all across Europe. We already have difficulties with farming in this country. I don't think we want to add to the burden on farmers. If you take energy, Europe has extremely high energy prices, just as we do.
Yeah.
They don't seem to actually have provided any solutions to, the problems of governing in the modern world. So I'm always confused as to why they keep looking back to the EU. They're looking back to the past. There's a kind of weird nostalgia for the pre-2016 age that I think is undeserved.
Paul?
It reminds me of the arguments I used to have with the communists, right? And the communists would say we need communism, and I said, but yeah, look at Czechoslovakia.
What were you arguing with your mates?
Look at Poland, look at Cuba. These places are a disaster, and they would say, it hasn't been tried properly. they would say. So Brexit has been tried. We have got Brexit. It's not working. We are poorer. Productivity is down. Investment is down. Growth is down over the last 6 years, thanks to Brexit.
Trade deals are up 19%.
Only thanks to Labour.
19%.
Only thanks to Labour.
No, prior to Labour as well. So you can't say those are down when they're not, because that's not true.
No, we're not going
we're
back
actually getting more investment and more trade
We're
than
not
Europe is.
going back into the EU, but to say everything's better because of Brexit, as we were promised all those years ago, 10 years ago, it has not happened. Like communism, nice idea, but it doesn't work.
We never deleted the crazy laws that we were told we were good. People were promised a bonfire of EU laws, a bonfire of regulation and red tape, a bonfire of...
And whose fault's that?
The Tories, absolutely. But you guys are carrying us on. You're making it worse. You're dragging us back in through the back door.
I think...
When we say people were promised Brexit and that it's been tried, that is not true, because the Brexit people wanted, which was getting out of the EU entirely, hasn't happened.
Well, we are out of the EU. I don't know if you noticed.
But our laws and regulations pretty much match up with them,
the Prime Minister's announcement, though, is worth scrutinising, because certainly on defence, that is going to have to be the big issue, closer alignment on defence with Europe.
Why?
Well, because America are heading in the opposite direction, that's why.
No.
They are an unreliable ally.
I'm sorry, Paul, that is EU propaganda.
They are
rubbish.
an unreliable ally.
I think that rhetoric's quite dangerous, Paul. Genuinely, I think that rhetoric's quite dangerous.
I think they are unreliable.
When have they been unreliable on our defence and military? Ever?
Well, right now with Putin.
Like how?
They're going to handle
funding the war.
They're going to hand.
This war would have been over
hand
had
land.
the US not.
They are going to hand land to Putin and reward his aggression, because that's what all the mood music and all the build-up is all about. A peace for what? By invading another country and then getting rewarded for it.
Well,
that just leads to more wars.
Ukraine is given to
that
the Russians.
Leads to more wars.
There is no way to resolve that
because
war.
appeasement always leads to more aggression. That's the lesson of history.
Well, the problem is that we're up against a nuclear power. One of them with more nukes that could destroy this planet 3 times over. And the issue we have is if we don't try to stop this war at some point and have some concessions on both sides...
Concessions?
Then we're going to have a nuclear war with Russia.
Concession means allowing the Russians to win. And if you do that, they will keep going.
If the Russians won, they would have taken the entirety of Ukraine. They have failed abysmally.
If they succeed in keeping the territory they have gained, or even been given others that they haven't gained as a result of this deal, they'll come after Estonia.
Well, I don't know how we got onto this anyway. Sorry, we've got
well, it's an important question. Well, because we need to defend Europe. That's what we were talking about, wasn't it? Europe.
We could do that with NATO. That's what it's there for. Anyway, let's go through the front pages one more time with you very quickly, of course. The Telegraph here, Mandelson, what are you saying? Blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to find it here. Here it is. Mandelson faces order for Epstein evidence and countryside to become less white in rural diversity drive. The Guardian. Mandelson under fire as files appear to show Epstein sent $75,000. The Eye. Bring justice for Epstein victims, Andrew and Mandelson told. The Metro. Embarrassment of riches for old pals of Epstein. Daily Express. Prime Minister wants to rewind freedom Brexit gave us. The Daily Mail. Andrew in new Epstein legal threats. The Times. New Epstein victim. I was sent for sex with Andrew. The Daily Mirror. Epstein flew me to Andrew at Royal Lodge. Second woman's sex claim. And The Sun. Very important story here. Lewis dating Kim K. That is all we have time for. Up next is The Late Show Live, hosted by the one and only Ben Leo. Ben, over to you.
Thanks, Alex. Coming up tonight, big questions in my book for Sir Keir Starmer. I know Lord Mandelson has just resigned, fine, very well, from the Labour Party. But why did Keir Starmer appoint him in the first place, knowing he had a history of a friendship or an acquaintanceship with Jeffrey Epstein? I think there's big questions now on Keir Starmer and his judgment, basically. Elsewhere, should Gary Lineker be banned from the US this summer because of his anti-government rhetoric? I think it's an attack on free speech, but more in just a tick.
We want you to set off on the destination of your dreams this year, as you could win an incredible holiday for two worth £10,000. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, you'll get to choose from 47 tours in over 30 worldwide destinations. We'll also give you £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure you really make a splash this summer.
For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5, plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19, PO Box 8690, Derby, DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m.